All right, guys, welcome back to the Inting podcast. We have a very special guest, George Geddes. What's up, man?
What's up? Yeah, I'm doing okay. How are you guys?
Not too bad, not too
Chilling.
bad.
Good stuff.
Last time you were here, it was very different. You were with Upcomers. Now you're with Dot Esports, correct?
Yeah, I'm with Dot Esports now.
How has that been?
It's been good, you know. I think like the last time we spoke, I think I've grown a little bit more as well. So the landscape definitely looks a lot different. But no, Dot's been fine. Obviously, I think I left Upcomer at a good time. Clearly, because they got rid of like all of their editorial staff. So
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I saw that. What happened, or can you not say?
no, I can say it's because they run out of money. That's just how it is.
Wait, for
When
real?
you put it's not that they ran out of money, it's that they didn't want to put money in assets that weren't making money. So editorial, which is written work, is very difficult to monetize, right? You'll notice that pages like Dexerto, Dot, they usually flood your page with adverts because that's how we make money, right? It's click-through ads, that kind of stuff. Sponsorships of articles, for example, that's also one. But video is typically where money is made. Snapchat, YouTube, that kind of stuff where you have AdSense, it actually, it's a lot better. But saying that, the reason why Upcomer was not successful and the fact that they pushed this whole idea that they would have half editorial, half video, and we would be equally as important, right? But that just wasn't the case. Upcomer higher ups, so Enthusiast Gaming, which owned the company, they decided to go 100% into video. So you'll notice the Upcomer YouTube, the Upcomer TikTok, Snapchat, all that kind of stuff. Like the Snapchat shows mainly are going to be the main focus because they make money. And it makes quick money rather than long-term success. Perhaps they could keep it going and see what happens. But I think it's not like good journalism that they're creating, in my opinion. Excuse me. They're just creating stuff that appeals to people with like a 2-minute like reading span, that won't watch a video, won't read an article. They'll just look at like a 5-second clip and go to the next one. But I guess that's what people do nowadays. So I could see the appeal, but personally I just don't think it's good journalism. So I don't consider Upcomer an editorial outlet anymore. I consider it a media outlet, if anything. I think it's massive scum, what they did to people, because people forget that these are like actual lives that you're just throwing away. These are like people that relied on your income, and it's just the reality of esports. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to make money, and unless you are, even if you are part of the 1% that does make money, you could still get ruined. So it's pretty unforgiving.
Did you notice it where you were like, hey, like they're not really like caring about anything about my article. They just want to do YouTube videos and all that, and that's what like made you leave Upcomers, or was there other reasons why you left Upcomers?
I left Upcomer because at the start, when I first joined, so I was at Dot previously, and I spoke with Kevin, my editor in chief, and at the time, and he said, look, just take the job. Because at the time I was working freelance for Dot. I hadn't really, this was before VALORANT. This was, all that kind of stuff. Before I started actually like reporting roster moves, etc. And it was hard, but he told me, look, you're being offered a full-time position. Just take it. And, we both know that this type of money that you're going to be on. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I don't care. I'll reveal my salary, So Upcomer paid me. Yeah, this is a bit of exclusive. Upcomer paid me $80,000.
Oh shit!
A year, right?
Okay.
Which is absolutely outrageous, right?
Yeah.
And I don't care. I'll fucking say it. I don't care.
Wow.
And the thing is, I wasn't even the highest paid writer. I was up there, but I wasn't the highest paid.
Wow.
And you know what I mean? Like, you name me one outlet that pays that much, I'll bite your hand off, mate, because it's impossible, right? You're telling me you're paying writers, right? So there was about, how many of us? staff writers. I'm trying to think. There was at least like 10 minimum, I think. I can't really remember how many, but you think if they're on that amount of money, even a bit less, you run out so fast. You know,
that's kind of insane.
Was it more of like a?
You know what I mean?
Was it like more of like, wait, are you guys serious? You're actually paying me that much money? Like, were you like, you guys have that much money like that?
No, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. Look, I was on like like $400, $500 a month, like just writing, like churning out news articles whilst I was working freelance, right? But then people perceive my value as being much higher than other writers, so they offered me a full-time position because I did reporting, right? You'll notice that I think probably about 95% of people that do esports journalism do not do reporting. You know, you'll notice people like Richard Lewis, even Thorin, Jacob Wolf, me, you know, people like that. We all do reporting. That's what we do, right? We break news that people don't really, well, Thorin a little bit less, but the others, you know, Jacob Wolf and Richard Lewis are the cream of the crop, you know, when it comes to that kind of stuff. And unless you are at the top of that, and also storytelling, which I think is where Thorin and Theon both are, unless you are literally the S tier of that, you are, it's like, it's not gonna, you know, it's not gonna do you well. And this is just how the business is, because your perceived value is, you know, increased when you do stuff that nobody else can do, which is fair enough. But to justify that amount of money, I think it's ridiculous. Like, I don't care. I'll say it now. I'm on less. I took a paid cut to join Dot in December, right? Because I knew that this money was not going to last, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, well, this is like, what? Like, you know, I need job security in my life. I'm a young kid. You know, I'm only 22. I need to like actually have some stability in my career. And I know Dot is, you know, profitable. It works well. It's great. I love it there. People there are lovely. So I just said, fuck it. Went straight back.
It was definitely like, you felt like it was definitely, because even though you're getting paid, you're like, I don't know if you guys actually have this much money to actually pay me. You guys say you got to pay me this much, but it's not realistic in your eyes. So you were just like, I'd rather have a safer job with like, not, I don't know how much, but like, even if it was half the cut, it was just like, hey, at least I'm safe in that job. I actually know I'm getting paid that much. Because I mean, if you notice, even if you can translate to pros, it's like, hey, you're getting paid this much, but doesn't mean you're going to stay here for like a year, maybe even like barely. It's like, for example, the Eccles and Baby J. I don't know how much they got paid, but they were in there for like what, 2 months, and then they got cut.
and they got cut.
So like, it's like that kind of security. It's like, yeah, you go to a big, I don't know, I mean, you could kind of consider Upcomers was pretty big for like a new.
It's big money.
Yeah, it was pretty big, but then like you're like, this doesn't really seem like viable. So do you think that it's the same way with esports pros as well when it comes to like job
100%.
security?
Yeah, of course. I think esports pros even less, to be honest, because the world of esports is really tough to survive in. I think if you want to make it as a professional player, even as a journalist, I think 95% of pros, maybe even like 90% of pros, will likely not have stable income, like at all. Right. And this is not like normal in the world, right? Like this isn't like normalized, you know, people usually work like office jobs that give you solid pay and that's it, you know, like that's fine. People are content with that. In esports, you get these high salaries and you could be cut within a month. Like that's it, you're done, right? And that will be the only salary you see for the next like 6 months, depending on how you got cut, right? And the circumstances surrounding it, whether you were good or not, which team you played for, etc. Like it's awful. You know, we have no security whatsoever for players here, basically. I think contracts have a very big part to play in that. Contracts typically favor the organization rather than the player, because that's just how it is. And I think when you have that sort of ecosystem, it becomes very difficult. Which is where like benefits of like franchising comes in, I guess, because, you know, you sign players and then you remove them during a transfer window, right? Unless there's some sort of like misconduct or whatever. But other than that, you typically don't release players. So, you know, in a sense that there is a lot of stability there. But yeah, it's it's extremely difficult, especially in Valorant, 100%, because it's a new game. It's awful, yeah.
So do you think like when orgs do that, or like the LS situation in Cloud9, where like he was there for like 2 months, I say, and then they just cut him out of nowhere, like 4 hours before like a match, or like the Eccles and Baby J situation. Do you think that because because I saw on Twitter everyone was like shitting on the orgs, like why would you just do that out of nowhere? But in the same sense, is like we as the viewers don't know what actually happened. Like for I think before like Eccles, Nate Shot was like it was a cultural difference, but nobody really knows what that means. So, but then it was the LS. It's like, oh, he didn't see eye to eye with us. It's like, how do you not see eye to eye? He was coaching your team for like 8 weeks. So like it makes no sense when orgs say that. It's like, do you not interview them, talk to them, and all that? I don't understand that. So like, where do you think like actually happens when they say stuff like that?
Oh yeah, most of it's PR. This is what I mean. Organizations put stuff out there that is specifically crafted to make sure that you don't know the full story if something like this happens. Most of it comes down to internal differences. I would not be surprised if some of the players that have a lot of authority on the roster, especially 100 Thieves, would have said to upper management, look, I don't like playing with these guys. Or, maybe a team captain, for example, Hiko is the team captain of 100 Thieves. He said to upper management, look, I don't like playing with Baby J. I don't like playing with Eccles. Let's get rid of them. That could be one example. I'm not saying that's what happened. I have no information on that. But stuff like that is quite common. General managers also have quite a lot of power. But in 100 Thieves' case, there wasn't one at the time. So I believe most of the authority probably came down to some of the other players. People like Asuna, Hiko, Ethan even, they have a lot of leverage because of how good a player they actually are and how many options they would have if they left, right? You look at Baby J and you look at Eccles, right? You compare those to your star, which is Asuna, obviously, and then you compare it to 2 of the biggest names, right, that came from CS, Hiko and Ethan, right? Do you risk getting rid of those guys because you see a future in Baby J or Eccles, or do you just do what they say and hope for the best and keep them? You know what I mean? Yeah. It usually comes down to internal differences. I think the LS situation was a bit more difficult because I think I don't think there was any internal differences there. I think it seemed like pretty regimented, but I don't know. Maybe the players didn't like want to play the way he wanted to play the game. I think it's very different when players get cut compared to a coach. Because organizations do typically want to protect the players, and if coaching styles differ massively, then I can sort of see why players may get upset, and then that may be sort of converted into a removal. But again, that's just pure speculation. I think that whatever statement comes out of an organization, typically most of it's just not true anyway. So I never take it at face value.
You want to go?
So, like, how is your experience working for Upcomer to Dot Esports? Like, what's different about it?
Yeah, so Upcomer was very hands-off, I think, in a sense. It was sort of like, we trust you, you do your thing, we'll just edit your articles, we'll have a weekly meeting, that's it.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of quote-unquote help.
They kind of just left you to do your own
they sort
thing.
of just leave you to your own devices.
Yeah.
I think we barely had any communication with Enthusiast, which is the company above us, or company above Upcomer, sorry, which owns Upcomer and runs Upcomer. There was barely any communication. There was pretty much none. Whereas at Dot, I have plenty of communication with all of my editors, and I also have plenty of communication with the people at Gamers, which is the company that owns Dot. We even have like combined Slack channels and stuff like that where we can like speak to each other, all as like one big company. Whereas in Upcomers, in the Upcomer example, or in Upcomer's case, sorry, I was actually removed from the Enthusiast Slack, right?
What?
And I didn't know why. I think only Sean, who was the head of editorial, and Colin, who was the head of video, Colin McNeil, they were the only two that remained in the enthusiast Slack. And they said to me, they were like, "Oh, we put you into the Upcomer Slack, so you don't need to be in the enthusiast one." And I was quite confused by that because I thought, well, why can't I just be in both? What's the problem there? You know?
Yeah.
So that immediately raised quite a few red flags for me because it's like, why would you want to separate your companies that much if you have nothing to hide and all of these, you know?
Yeah.
I want to connect with some of these people, speak to other employees, etc. But that just didn't happen. So,
And you still don't know till this day why.
Oh yeah, I don't have a clue. I don't know why.
That's
I don't suppose that some of the other writers that were at Upcomer, I'm sure they'll tell you the same thing. They probably weren't even invited to it.
because you're technically like right now the biggest Valorant reporter, like as of now, because every time the reports break in, it's always your name around it. So it's just weird how you, the biggest Valorant reporter, they would just be like, "Nah, we don't need you here." It's like that kind of like makes no sense as well. Because you do have a lot of inside scoops.
Yeah. Well, at the time, this was January last year, right? So you got to think about it in context. January last year, I wasn't anyone. I had like 900 followers. Okay. So they probably saw me and thought, fuck this guy. You know, who is this guy, right? It's just another writer, whatever, et cetera, you know? But the thing that really annoyed me, actually, was Colin McNeil put out a tweet, I think a while back, and it really irked me, and I never told him. He said, like, "Oh, the whole Upcomer stuff is going really well." This was in like January, not last year, sorry, the year before. Oh wait, no, sorry, yeah, last year, January, or February, I can't remember. He put out a tweet saying, "Oh, the Upcomer stuff is going so well. Huge thanks to Sean and Fion, which were the two people that joined alongside me at the same time in January." And then forgot to include me, who was also a part of the four that first signed on with Upcomer. So yeah, that was pretty disheartening. And then he sort of added me as like a little tweet underneath saying, "Oh, and George." I was like, "Yeah, cheers, mate."
Wow.
So yeah, I memean, yeah, people don't really know that. It was me, Theon, Tyler, Sean Morrison, and Colin McNeil were the first people to sign for Upcomer. And we were the ones that sort of, you know, went with the project. So
you felt disrespected, low-key, in a way. It's
hey. I was a part of all of the development. You know, the branding, the logo, everything. You know, I was a part of it. And you know what? I think part of it was, I think I was signed because, first of all, because Colin, I think, gave a recommendation, but also because I was one of the former employees of Upcomer in 2019 that cut all of their staff. Right? It's funny how history actually repeats itself, and then
does it again. It happens again.
This time I was a little bit I was a little bit more keen, and I actually left the company before they removed all the editorial staff. So, you know, yeah, it's just funny how it works, really.
Yeah.
So, but when it comes to like journalism, do you think like it's gotten better or worse for like being a Valorant reporter as well? Because now I'm seeing like different kind of reporters, and they're like really like not breaking news first, but like they're making their name for themselves. Do you feel like it's better for the game as well? Like for pros, like because I saw this article that came out that potentially Hiko might get dropped by 100 Thieves, but then like some people are like, wait, that might not be true, like because of Wardell coming on, and then. So, do you think like reporters need to be taken more seriously? Because I saw this, I forgot his name. It was Bo, something about about Wardell being dropped, and then nobody was like, "Wait, why would Wardell be dropped?" And then everyone gave him flack for that. So, do you think?
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that article, correct? I don't know if you saw the tweet. So, like,
it wasn't an article; it was a tweet.
Yeah, it was a tweet. So then, do you think like more and more journalists need to be really careful on what they say, depending on like the org and like the players as well, because their fan bases sometimes could be ruthless as well.
Yeah. One of the biggest problems I have, and I actually get a lot of criticism for this, and I don't think it's entirely justified, but listen, for someone who has been doing journalism properly for, I think, about 3 years now, I take this craft extremely seriously. I don't, you know, I read constantly. I want to become a better journalist every day. I write a lot. You know, I've wrote hundreds, if not thousands of articles at this point, you know, some of which haven't even seen the light of day. So I do take this incredibly seriously. And when people make, tweets and, these sort of half-assed reports where they're like, oh, it's possible that Wardell could be removed from TSM. Well, we could use the Wardell example, actually. So prior to, Seven stepping in as a substitute or whatever, we had received word that Wardell was not playing with the team. But then we had also received conflicting information saying that Wardell would be moving to Texas if he got like a raise or whatever. We had
he
that
wanted a
from multiple
raise.
people. Yeah. So it was sort of, it came down to that, and clearly the organization didn't give him that. And then he just decided, look, I'm not going to Texas, right? I want to stay here. So, whether that's the full story or not, I'm not sure. That has never been confirmed. That's why I never reported it. So I guess that could be, used as speculation. But look, when people make tweets about information, first of all, that, I guess I don't consider that really journalism. I consider, I mean, I guess you could argue it's journalism, but I think for me, I think actually writing and taking the time to create a piece is much more fulfilling. I think I consider journalism more like art, to be honest. So, yeah, I think I do have a bit of a, what's the word? I do get a little bit annoyed. I get a bit irked when I see people just making tweets, throwaways that they could delete. Because this is the thing that people don't realize, right? When you work for a journalistic outlet, you cannot delete articles, right? That's not a thing. You don't delete articles, right?
Yeah.
So I risk it every single time when I write a report, okay? Let's say I wrote a report saying, I don't know, Ashen has dropped from 100 Thieves, right? It's not happened, but let's say I reported it, right? Just hypothetical, okay? If that turned out to be wrong, right, that is on the internet forever. I can't remove it.
Yeah.
Right? But if someone like Bo or whoever else, right, I'm not saying Bo specifically, but any other writer, wanted to report something that they heard and then made a tweet about it, they could delete it if it's wrong. That's fine.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want. And then a week later, no one knows. No one cares. Right?
Yeah.
This is not how, you need integrity. You need skin in the game to actually be considered credible. And this is why people consider me credible and others not credible, right?
Yeah.
People might consider me an arsehole for this, right? Like, that's fine. You can consider me an arsehole, right? But I still have standards that I uphold myself to, right? And this has been the same thing with people like Max Purist, right? When I noticed that he was also doing reporting, immediately I said to him, you're doing great work. Let's work together, right? Yeah. Because I see a potential future in this kid, right? And I think he could be a great journalist. And he wasn't just making tweets, and potentially it could be wrong that he could delete later. No, he was on VLR reporting it every single time, right? And he was writing it up. He was getting good work and he was getting notoriety. He was doing everything right, right? So I helped him out. I said, look, come join me and me at Dot, sorry. And we could break some great stories. And we've done great work this year, right? And I think both of us have gained credibility over that. So it really does annoy me when people sort of like hold different people to these different standards, right? So yeah, it really does annoy me because, let's say hypothetically, I even put out a tweet saying Aston has dropped from 100 Thieves. I didn't write about it. I didn't report it. I just said sources, Aston has dropped from 100 Thieves. Everyone would believe me. Everyone would, obviously, because I'm a credible reporter. What if I deleted it a week later? That's my credibility down the toilet. You know what I mean? So it's just stupid because it's like, it's ridiculous. We risk it every time because we cannot delete it. We cannot remove it. These people can because it's social media and everyone's so, disenfranchised by it all. Because when you work for a journalistic outlet, you take things seriously. And it really annoys me when people don't take it seriously, right? Yeah. And I don't know, man. It's just, it really does infuriate me sometimes because I take this incredibly seriously. And people are like, oh, you must hate reporters that steal your leaks or whatever. It's like, no, I don't. I've helped one that stole my leagues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've got him a job where he earns more money now and is also on like 12K followers. You know what I mean? Like I'm literally helping people that are doing the work that I'm doing and potentially stealing my work. If I was good enough, I would get it before them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't have to prove anything.
Yeah.
I want to help people that do it properly.
So you'd rather like, you don't care if you're the first one to report it. You'd rather get that, like, for example, Wardell going 100 Thieves, like people, that's rumors right now. But like you're saying, like, okay, if I know that contract has been signed, he has verbally agreed it, he's like, everything's been settled, then I'll report the news. Then I'll be like, you'd rather have that than be like, oh, he's potentially going, I'm gonna tweet it out. I just want to be the first one to get like impressions on Twitter.
Yeah, of course. Because I don't do this for impressions, you know? Maybe like a shit post here and there because I think it's funny or whatever. Like, whatever. You could judge me for that if you want.
No, it's great. It's great.
I think you should separate the art from the artist, but whatever. It's just people's opinion. I don't really care. I'll keep doing what I'm doing. But yeah, this is what I mean. I do not care about being first as long as I have the information correct. And it is the most detailed information, right? But some circumstances, I think it's okay to try and be first, especially if it's a very, very big scoop. But when you do your due diligence as a reporter, you should always have the most amount of information, right? And it's, I don't know. Just some people, I think the ways they conduct journalism really does get on my nerves. Because I think, in my opinion, journalism is an art. It is an art form. People can craft different pieces. And I really don't like it when people become Twitter reporters, right? I really don't like it. I think you should, fair enough, making a tweet and then reporting about it later, that's fine. Or making a tweet on something you might not feel is worthy for a report, fair enough. Like, I guess we could sort of argue that back and forth. But I think it's ridiculous. I think people should be held to a standard where you work for an outlet and you know that this person can be trusted because this cannot be removed. This is it. You cannot be forgotten now if you get this wrong. Yeah. And I do this every time.
Have you like told these reporters like, hey, like maybe you shouldn't be a Twitter reporter? Like actually, like, have you like tried maybe reaching out or any of this? Or have you like, is this your first time really like talking about this?
No, I've spoken to Bo before. Bo came into my Discord and started reporting news. And I even worked with him on a few stories when he was publishing on like Medium and stuff like that, right? So, it's not that like me and Bo like hate each other or something. I'm very willing to help Bo out if he would like help. But I don't feel like publicly I could even say that because people will be like, oh, well, look at you being condescending, etc. It's like, no, like I'm willing to help him if he wants help, right? Of how to conduct journalism. But in my opinion, some of the ways he goes about it are not proper journalism, in my opinion. And that, that is just the way I view it. I view it as an art form, as I said before. And when people do not take the art seriously, that is when I have a problem with it. So yeah, again, most of this is just opinion based, but I guess that's why people have a problem with me. Because,
I feel like you get a bad rep for what you give. I feel like people are just like, oh, it's like, oh, he's too condescending and all that. But I'm like, I don't see that. It's just because like when it comes to reporting, and then especially in esports, it's a dog world. Literally, it's
of course.
It's like you need to be the best of the best, or you're not making
nothing.
it.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like you have more of a competitive drive when it comes to journalism because you rather craft something better. Even though if it's not first, it's definitely better. And I feel like that's a misinterpretation everyone has of you. And I feel like everyone like you and people just need to look at you as like, hey, you're still a human behind that screen. So I feel like people don't understand. People don't understand that sometimes.
I've become completely disassociated with it all now, to be honest. I think I'm very much focused on just myself and improving my work. And I think eventually that will show. Whether people in the community would like to see that one way or not, that's completely up to them. I love the Valorant community. I love the Valorant players. I think all the players respect me. Maybe a few hate me, whatever. I don't care. There's a reason why I think 99% of them follow me on Twitter and actually communicate. It's because I think I've garnered that respect. and I think I've been integrated into the scene quite well. There's just a few bad apples that don't like me, and that's understandable. That is what it is what it is. You can't
happens.
change some people's opinions. But this is what happens when you're a public figure, right? When you amass some sort of following, this is just what happens. This is life. You will get people like this. People like Richard Lewis, for example, is even banned on a League of Legends subreddit for basically no reason whatsoever, or no justifiable reasons, right? People hate him. People hate Thorin as well. Like, people despise these guys. Like, there's a very small minority, but they do despise them, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, you have to see the reasons why they do that. And it's because they care so much, right? That they will do anything to make sure they are the best and what they report is good, right? And you'll notice that anybody, I think about 99% of people with any significance in esports respect these guys, right? Especially Richard Lewis, in my opinion. I think if you are a prominent figure in the esports scene and you ask them, do you respect Richard Lewis and his work? They will say yes. 99% of them, I think, genuinely. Because everyone in esports that has some sort of prominence realizes the work that they do and how important it is, right? Because that's just the way it is. Some of these moron fans don't understand how it is. They're usually quite young. They don't get esports. They don't know how it works. You can sit behind a screen. I don't care. Most of these are just Redditors that will never have any sort of esports prominence anyway, so I don't care. But again, that's extremely small minority. I think the rest of the people that actually follow me and like what I do understand that I'm a human being. Sometimes I make mistakes. That's understandable. But I hold myself to a very high standard. And if I don't make that high standard, then I will be very disappointed in myself. But that's just the way it is, right? That's just the way esports is.
Do you like how the Valorant from the last time we talked? Do you think the Valorant has definitely gotten better? Like, what do you think about the state of Valorant and like as a community, players, like as an orgs as well? Like, how do you think Valorant is as of now? Do you think it's in a healthy state? Do you think it's gotten worse, better? What do you believe the state is right now? I know it's a loaded question.
No, I think it's healthy. I think for what it is. I think if we compare it to other esports, I think you can sort of see where there's a bit of an issue, I guess, especially with the crowds. I think I have a very strong opinion on this. I think there are ways that Riot can implement crowds. They've done it for some of their other esports. The LCK, for example, already has crowds at their playoffs. I know the LPL has crowds as well, I believe. COVID still exists. It will always exist. That is how COVID works. I understand that, they want to make it as safe as possible, et cetera, et cetera. There was a massive problem at Champions. But again, people don't understand. People didn't follow the rules at Champions, right? Like, there's a reason why a lot of people got COVID at Champions. It was because they didn't care, right? They didn't care. They didn't follow the rules. They went outside. They mingled. They chilled with other players, except, like, what do you expect? You know? And that was at the peak of a very different time. But look, I think crowds are a very important feature. I think the fans are a very important feature. If anything, those two are what makes esports, in my opinion. You cannot have online events forever in an FPS game.
It's gonna die out.
It will not, people will get annoyed at this, and this is the thing. For me, my interest, for example, in CSGO completely went when it went online. Because I was so accustomed to these massive LANs, IEM like Katowice, like all these huge like LAN events with thousands of people, right? ESL Pro League finals, etc. Like these great events with loads of crowds, hype, and I loved every minute of it. It was like I was watching like an actual sports game, right? And it was sick. And as soon as that went, I was like, well, this is boring. Why would I want to watch this? I don't care. There's no stakes, There's no people there. There's no crowds. I can't even see the players. What's the point? It's basically just a simulation at this point. Like, I don't care what happens. Exactly. That's what I mean. So I think crowds, 100%, once crowds are back, that is when I think the esport will definitely take off.
Do you think it's a region thing as well? because like in the LCK and the LPL, like I think COVID's like definitely better because in that like regions.
Yeah, well,
over
obviously, regionally, it's very difficult. When you get an international LAN, you obviously are forced to take people from Brazil, from Latin America, from North America, Europe, etc.
Yeah.
And all these different countries have different restrictions and different travel like requirements and all that other stuff. And it does get very difficult, and I completely understand that. But eventually, it must come to a point where you are going to keep doing these international events anyway. So how are you going to deal with it? Are you just never going to deal with it, or are you going to wait for the next peak? Because there will be another peak. This isn't going to go away. So it's like, do we just keep doing the same thing years and years and years down the line? No, it's just not how the world works, right? Like, I'm sorry, but some people have to face reality and realize that without crowds, right? I think a lot of the value is lost from like how good games can actually be. And I think that's a major problem. But I think the esport is still, I think, in a healthy state. I think the format is okay. I think the format could be better, but it's okay. I think for now. I think viewership wise, I think it's actually not been that great. Mainly because Sentinels, 100 Thieves, Gambit, these kinds of big teams, they aren't making Masters. I think as a result, Masters will not have a very big viewership. And I think that is wholly justified, in my opinion. I don't think, even some of the Russian players can't even attend the event, right? Shigetsu from FPX, Shao from FPX, Brave from Fnatic, they can't even go, right? They're facing a potential ban from even attending the event anyway. So, you have all these different difficulties, that are prominent right now. Obviously, the Ukraine invasion, COVID, etc. It will be difficult to hold an event, which it is. But this is the world we live in, and I think viewership will decline for Masters 1. I don't think the viewership will be high at all, but we'll see. I think Riot will have to respond accordingly. But from the history of Riot, I don't think they will. But it is what it is.
I always felt like maybe at least in the group stage or like because I think like Brazil, I think Korea and they have lands. They've been having lands because like even no audiences, right? But they've been having lands. But it's just like I don't get. It's like why can't NA have that? I know they tried last year for LCQ. I mean that was an interesting event.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was ruined. It was terrible because there was it was awful. There was no preparation. And even the preparation that they did have, it was terrible. There was no actual physical LAN servers there. Yeah. So you're just like,
they're playing on Virginia servers.
Yeah.
They're playing like
it was like coming over and we're just playing on a different server.
Yeah, it was
you're literally playing online. So what's the point? Like we might as well just go home. And that's what some of the teams tried to do. And this is the thing. North Americans, right, as a player group, will throw a hissy fit at the smallest things and cry about anything, right?
We're spoiled.
Whereas, do you seriously believe, right? Koreans that are playing the game, were told, listen, you're going to have to play on an online server. There may be a few issues. Just ride it out. Do you seriously think they're going to complain to the same level as North Americans? It's not a chance. Not a chance. But listen, it was relatively unplayable. There were times where players were just frozen and then they would sort of skip. And then, I remember the time where Hiko complained about like his Sova drone or whatever, like, etc.
Well, they would make no noise. So much.
Oh, yeah. There was loads of problems. There was loads of issues. But look,
I feel like they fixed it. Like,
I mean, I think they did try. I don't really know the extent of it. I can't remember. Excuse me. But I think it's just hard holding it for North America. Europe, I think, is even more difficult, obviously, because of all the different countries. But Korea, it's a very small country. It's very sort of easy.
Brazil
because
as well.
Yeah, Brazil, exactly. Brazil's a big country, but
big country.
The way where people are located is very sort of in the same areas. Whereas North America, you have some from Canada. You have a few like other players, but most of them live sort of south of the middle of the United States. So, Texas, California, etc. All these other different states that are massive. So it can get quite difficult, especially Canadians that come over. But again, that was a massive shit show. But that's just how it is. I think Riot learned their lesson. But I think we should be holding them to a higher standard. I don't know why we aren't, to be honest. But obviously, most of the pros will shill for Riot anyway because they love them so much and they've made such a great game and they've made so much money from it. So whatever, who cares, right? I'll just be the guy that complains and everyone can criticize me anyway. So is what it is.
You're like the burners for all the pros. You'll be the complaining.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry. I can be the mouthpiece. I don't care. It's just it is what it is. I'll give my opinions. They can give their opinions. Whatever. It's fine.
Yeah. Do you have any idea if any the Masters 2 or do you think Champions will be held in NA at all? Do you know anything regarding that, or do you think would?
Well, I heard. There's a few rumors about where Champions will be held. I don't want to say where, but
if you don't have to say that. Can you like confirm or deny it's going to be in NA? Just like you don't have to say the exact region, but like can you?
I don't know if it's going to be in NA. No.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if any of these events are going to be in North America.
Wow. Okay. Because I know Worlds is happening in NA for League of Legends World. They're having a world tour in NA. So I think is it because maybe that's the issue because it's relatively around the same time? Would that be another issue?
I'm not sure. Riot typically likes to have their events like relatively sort of in the same place. So it actually wouldn't surprise me if they had champions in North America. But who knows what happens, right? I don't. So is what it is.
Alrighty. Tried to squeeze one out of you just to see if you can get something out of you. Well, I think we should wrap it up here.
You want to? Shall we do the?
So we have a tradition.
questions?
We have a tradition. Every guest we actually ask. So, do you drink boba at all? Boba tea?
No.
You don't drink boba at all.
No.
Oof.
You just.
Okay,
is that just ruined your little sort of?
No, because every guest we ask, because we drink boba a lot, so we always ask every guest. It's a tradition. Do they drink boba and what their favorite drink is? So we always ask them, and we ask some guests as well. This, so they roast me about it. But do you have a bidet? Do you know what a bidet?
No, but I'd want one. That'd be pretty cool.
See,
I guess.
See, they roast me.
Why would you? No, I don't know why they're roasting you. Why would you want to waste paper on something you could just do with water anyway?
I mean, you have to wipe anyways after it, right?
Yeah, just one wipe.
But there's not a lot though. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
For me, I use quite a lot of toilet roll, so you know what I mean. Like, I wouldn't mind a bidet, to be honest. Like,
honestly, like it's not the worst answer we've heard though.
All right, yeah,
I think the best one was. Is that like a dessert?
Yeah, no, what? I think it was a cruise manager. We asked him, and then he's like, "What is that? Is that a dessert?" So, so honestly, this is one of the like more chill answers. Before we wrap it up, do you want to shout out anything? Plug anything? You can plug and shout out anything you want.
No, it's fine.
All right, follow you on Twitter. Anything?
No, all right.
He's got a bigger following than we do.
Follow me. I don't care. As long as they read my reports, that's all I care about.
No, for sure.
Sick.
All right, guys. We'll see you later. Love you.